True Crime Tuesday, and welcome to a new format on my channel, where we are going to look at cases where gamers turned out to be horrible criminals. And I want this to be an active reaction where we are together trying to solve the case. And for that, I have created this template, which you can also find in the description down below to download. As we prolong to the video, we're going to try to fill it to get an idea on who was actually the person committing the crime, how did he do it, and most importantly, the motive on why did he actually do it. Today we are taking a look at the case of James Holmes, summarized by Lawtif. So show some love to him. I have the original video also linked in the description. And now let's start the reaction.
314 for a shooting at Century Theaters, 14300 East Alameda Avenue. They're saying somebody's shooting in the auditorium. 315 and 314, there is at least one person that's been shot, but they're saying there's hundreds of people just running around. So they're saying it happened Theater 9 where Batman was playing, but another RP is saying they're still shooting.
316, I need a rescue in here, hot. We got a guy shot.
Team 6, we got another person outside shot in the leg of female. I got people running out of the theater, they're shot in room 9.
Get us some damn gas masks for Theater 9. We can't get in it. 16, I got 7 down in Theater 9. 7 down. I've got a child victim. I need rescue at the back door of Theater 9 now. Inside of the theater is secure. We're bringing out bodies now.
Denver shooting. Fatalities reported after shots fired at cinema.
Get someone to the back as soon as you can. Rescue personnel. I got at least 3 to 7 hits.
I'm 9 News reporter Brandon Ritteman on the scene of breaking news in Aurora right now. A late night, apparently multiple shooting incident at a movie theater in Aurora. I'm going to step out of the shot so that we can show you exactly where we are. We are on the northeast side of the Century 16 theaters, which are in the town center of Aurora.
Then I raised the shotgun and saw that people were getting up in like the back left corner. So I shot up that direction.
July 20th, 2012, James Holmes walked into the Century 16 movie theater in Aurora, Colorado in order to attend the premiere of the new Batman movie. 20 minutes into the movie, James left the theater through the exit and went back to his car, where he would put on ballistic armor and took 3 weapons with him: a Remington 870 shotgun, an AR-15 and a Glock pistol.
So we know that he used a shotgun, an AR, and a Glock.
Back in the theater, he opened fire on more than 400 people, killing 12 of them and injuring 70 more in the process. At the time, no one understood why a young man without a criminal record would do something so evil, and only by taking a look at James Holmes's life can we understand what led up to this mass shooting. Holmes actually had a stable upbringing in a good neighborhood in California, and he was described as a well-mannered, intelligent but also shy boy. When James turned 11, he began developing mental health problems, suffering from chronic depression, and even tried to take his own life. He also hallucinated and saw shadow figures in his room that were fighting each other with various firearms. On top of that, he began to show homicidal tendencies, picturing himself hurting and killing anyone who annoyed him. Later on, the family...
It's already pretty tough. Imagine that he's 11 years old and he already has to deal with that. And yeah, we can just hope that his family tried at least to take care of it.
Moved to San Diego, which fueled James's mental problems since he had to leave behind a happy life with all of his friends. In San Diego, he had problems finding new friends and
Okay, so he has all of those issues and the family draws him out from a known environment into something new. Yeah, maybe they had to do it because of work, right? But that's already not as caring, I would say.
Began to withdraw into his room. His mom even went from door to door to find playmates for James, but no one seemed to be interested, even though he had social problems.
Okay, that might have even caused some more issues for him. Like, imagine your mom would go from house to house to find for you people to play with, no? That's probably pretty embarrassing for him. I think the mom probably wanted to do her best, no? And help, but that might have also backfired.
James was an exceptionally good student and even took part in school clubs. Other members of these clubs said that he rarely spoke and, quote, he was part of us, but not part of us, he was kind of a shadow figure. In 2006 he graduated from high school, and since his parents both worked in scientific fields, he wanted to follow in their footsteps and decided to study neuroscience. He attended UC Riverside and in 2010 he received his undergraduate bachelor's degree with highest honors, but due to his social anxiety he skipped his graduation ceremony. Afterwards he applied to 6 top graduate schools but was rejected by all of them, because his social anxiety made it impossible to pass any interviews. As a result he moved back to his parents and did not seem to have any purpose in life. He eventually began working at a pill coating factory but rejected their offer for a full-time job, because he did not want to work in this field for the rest of his life. Eventually,
He's really smart, but even though he's really smart, he's not able to reach something in life because of his social problems. That must be extremely discouraging, and now he has the feeling that he's stuck in a job that he doesn't want to do for the rest of his life.
he managed to enroll in a college in Colorado and became part of a neuroscience program that accepted only 6 students per year. However, when it came to lab work he was once again described to have poor communication and overall a lack of interest, so he was rejected from his first lab project. On top of that, his girlfriend broke up with him shortly after, and so James decided to see the university counselor. They talked about his suicidal tendencies in the past and he told her that he had homicidal thoughts. For some reason the counselor said that this was not a concern and it was normal for many students. This
Saying it's normal for students that they want to kill other people? Oof, okay, crazy statement for a counselor.
evaluation was mostly based on the fact that James's homicidal thoughts were never specific, with no specific target in mind, no plans, and no hallucinations linked to these thoughts. He was eventually passed on to the university psychiatrist Dr. Lynn Fenton, where they talked about similar things. However, when Lynn pressed him for more details he answered, "People are my problem and the only solution is to kill everyone, but sadly this isn't realistic." She described to him some medications but still did not see him as a threat since he told her that he did not plan to kill himself or others. However, in his journal James Holmes showed a different side of him, and if anyone would have known about the journal, there probably would not have been a massacre down the line. He wrote in his journal that he could not tell the psychiatrists, who he called mind rapists, about his plans since they would then help him to stop his homicidal urges. Furthermore, he stated that he would keep lying and deflecting any incriminating statements, because if they were to lock him up he couldn't go on and kill people. James also emailed his ex-girlfriend telling her that he has no future anymore and that he wants to kill people. Just like psychiatrists, the girl thought he was joking and engaged in this conversation, talking with him about killing people and the consequences he would have to face. Later the topic shifted to the value of life, and James stated that there is nothing more valuable than a human life. He wrote, quote, "If you kill a person you erase all their experiences and their potential."
For him, the value is taking it away from other people. That's pretty sick.
His ex told him that this would not give his life more purpose, but he was convinced that killing people would grant him a more meaningful life, even though he did not even understand what a meaningful life is. Over time he kept failing at university, which further instilled the urge in him to kill people in order to have a new purpose in life. In his journal he called his failures at school the catalyst for everything and began to plan his killings. His first idea.
So he's like going methodically on it, actually trying to figure out what kind of murder he wants to be. Bomber, serial murder, mass murder.
Was to build a bomb, however he decided that this might be too suspicious and scratched this idea. Then he thought about biological weapons, but
Wait, what? A bomb is too suspicious and his next thought is biological warfare? Okay,
ultimately came to the conclusion that this method would take too much biological and chemical work. His third idea was to become more of a serial killer, planning to hide on hiking trails to kill people one by one. However, he decided that this would leave behind too much evidence, and more importantly it's not enough kills for his taste. And finally he got the idea for mass murder, easy to perform with a massive amount of victims and you only need firearms as well as a crowded space. In James' mind,
so he basically just wants to have like a really high KDA without having any, or without giving any time for the police force to arrest him. So sounds like he's planning to only commit like one crime, but make that count.
this was the perfect idea, and now it was time to choose the perfect location. He eventually chose the Century 16 Theater in Aurora, because it was large, isolated and in close proximity to his home. James drew detailed maps of the cinema and began to plan his perfect massacre by taking account the size of each theater room and number of exits. In the end, he would choose the room with the least entrances and exits and noticed that one could lock these theater doors with handcuffs to maximize the number of casualties.
That's sick. Like the way that he planned that out, like there must have been so many moments where he could have drawn back and realized that that is not the thing to do, and maybe that he needs some help.
James also studied the Columbine massacre and came to the conclusion that police will arrive around 3 minutes after he begins his own massacre. More than a month later, James was called in by his psychiatrist Lynn Felton, who also invited Dr. Robert Feinstein to the session, because he was specialized in violence assessment. But once again, all James needed to do was to deny having any specific plans or targets, so the two psychiatrists called him mentally stable and let him go.
That's ridiculous. So you just claim there's no specific target, you can say whatever you want. Like, yeah, like I get that the psychiatrist needs to have like trust and the patient needs to have trust in the psychiatrist to have like an ability to heal him. But I don't know, like if other people are potentially on danger, I'm pretty sure that the person needs to be locked up until they can get really sure that that is happening. And just like a mentally unstable person claiming they're not doing it, I don't know if there's too much trust in that word.
However, in June, Dr. Felton began to worry and asked friends and family about James, but all of them confirmed that he was not at all violent. Around the same time, James also quit his classes and began to gear up for his soon unfolding plan. He bought the AR-15, tons of magazines for his weapons, a case for his rifle, a helmet, ballistic armor, first aid kits, thousands of rounds of ammunition, ballistic trousers, neck protection, rifle scopes, arm protection, a second handgun, and finally Bluetooth headphones and an iPod.
So now, like he's buying all of this protection gear. Does that mean that he does not plan on dying in there and he wants to have like the most amount of time to kill people? Or like is he planning like other mass shooters to try to execute himself afterwards? But like buying all this protection gear? I don't know, maybe he does it only to have more kill time.
The last two items were necessary because he didn't want the shooting to feel personal, so he could just use the headphones to block out the screams of his victims. James also dyed his hair red.
Wait, what? So he does not want to hear his victims scream, but he wants to kill all of them. Okay, so that's probably also then it's really about the killing and not like having that power of inflicting fear.
Simply to stand out and because it looked more exotic than blue or green hair dye. But James did not only plan this massacre, he also was working on another plan simultaneously. He booby-trapped his apartment with countless chemicals and flammable substances, while hooking the bomb itself to a wire on the door handle that would act as the detonator. Attached to the bomb were jars with napalm, bullets, and gunpowder, and he also spread out magnesium on the floor, which is probably the most diabolic way of setting a fire. The thing about magnesium fires is that they get worse when
Yeah, if you put water in, it gets like crazy, similar to like when you have an oil fire and you put water in. It looks like he is targeting police force with this booby trap style for his apartment. Because like, what's the chain of events? Like he gets arrested, and then they will probably figure out where he lives. They're going to go to his home to try to collect evidence, and then they would kill the police force that arrives as a first responder there.
coming in contact with water because they then produce deadly hydrogen gas. And since the first instinct when seeing a fire is to extinguish it with water, this makes for a really dangerous trap. There was also another detonator beside the door handle, because he placed a boombox near his apartment and a remote control next to it. If anyone were to try and deactivate the boombox with the remote, they would simply blow up the apartment building. However, this whole plan failed because one of his neighbors was alerted by the loud music, but when she noticed that his door was unlocked and open, she decided not to enter the apartment. Later,
Oh, she
police
was
managed
lucky.
to deactivate
Holy
all the
shit.
booby traps after they caught James Holmes at the Century 16 Theater. James arrived at the cinema, bought a ticket.
There's a German saying called Glück im Unglück. Like if something really unlucky happens, but you still have like a little bit of luck. And that lady there probably had some crazy angels protecting her, that she didn't die to all of those crazy booby traps.
Ticket and went to theater room 9 after lingering around for a bit.
So you go in the theater, or what's it like? What are you seeing and hearing as you go in the theater?
I just went to the very front and sat down in one of the chairs, and then pulled out my phone to make it look like I had a phone call.
I'm sorry?
Pulled out my phone to make it look like I had a phone call,
Okay.
and then went out the exit for that reason.
What else did you see in the theater when you first went in?
Well, it's just an aisleway.
I'm sorry?
It's just an aisleway to the stands. And I looked back in the stands and saw that they were all full.
Okay. So you go out through.
So there's no emotions when he talks about that the stands are full, but his goal was to kill as many people as possible.
Some sort of exit corridor to the outside exit door, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then what happened?
Then I went to put the stuff on and get all the weapons ready.
Any particular thoughts, preparation?
So he goes in, then he says he gets a phone call, and then he goes out to prepare himself.
Getting ready, psyching yourself up, anything like that?
I put my music on my headphones, on my wireless headphones.
Okay.
Drop in the comments what music do you think he was listening to while committing the mass murder? Like what music do you choose to do something like this?
Then what happened?
Then an employee came out to the dumpster and threw something away, but I had the tinted windows and the sun shade up, so they didn't see me. But I heard them and everything.
But what? Then
But I heard them.
You heard them come out.
Yeah.
What did you think about when they came out?
If they're going to interrupt the process or not. But they didn't. They just went back inside the theater after they threw their trash away.
If they had somehow interrupted the process, what would have happened?
I had a handgun in my passenger door side that I could have used.
Okay. Were you prepared to do that if necessary?
Yeah.
At what point did you call the behavioral health hotline or the hotline of some kind?
Like halfway through gearing up.
From the car then?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was something that happened in the car. If you can, I'd like to pretty much hear everything. I want to hear the whole
I
story.
called them, but I couldn't hear anybody on the other line.
What led you to make that call?
Just one last chance to see if I should turn back or not.
So he basically wanted to be stopped in his mind, but since one call failed, he then committed the mass murder.
As far as you know, your reception was fine in the middle of town.
Right.
And you didn't hear any answer, electronic or personal or otherwise, on the other end?
No.
And you said 9 seconds. Did you kind of count them off, or did you show on the phone how long it was?
It said like call ended after 9 seconds.
I'm sorry?
It said call ended after 9 seconds.
Do you remember what you thought or felt or when nobody answered?
Then shortly after, I thought the FBI would stop me.
Walk me through, you go in through the outer door, then what happens, and what do you see, what do you hear, what do you smell?
First, I opened the tear gas canister while I was still outside the door, and it made a hissing sound, and...
Okay, so he used tear gas as well.
Then I went inside and tossed it over on the right side of the theater.
How did it feel to be really doing it?
Then it was autopilot.
Walk me through.
Okay. So he's denying the answer on how it made him feel to commit the murders. He's like wriggling around it.
From there.
Then I raised the shotgun and saw that people were getting up in like the back left corner. So I like shot up that direction, and then I don't remember any of the other shots of the shotgun.
Any idea why those people were getting up in the back left corner?
Well, they could see me all decked out with my guns and stuff.
Okay. So you shot in that direction. Do you know whether you hit anything?
I heard a scream.
You
So
heard
I
a scream?
assumed, yeah.
He heard a scream through his headphones, so his plan of covering them didn't work. Probably not noise canceling.
You shot how many times toward the folks in the upper left?
I think the shotgun held 5 or 6 shells. So I shot all 6 of them.
Emptied in that direction, okay.
But then I threw the gun down and switched to the AR-15, and I don't remember where I shot those ones either, except for like 2 people who tried to run away, and I shot like 3 shots at them.
There were many more people in the theater than the 2 who were trying to run away.
Right.
Did their running away prompt you to shoot them?
It made me kind of focus on them or divert my attention to them.
While you were firing, did anybody get out while you were firing?
Yeah, the 2 people who ran away, and then afterwards, 4 people, I think, carried a guy out, and they got out the back exit, the emergency exit. I had
In his plans, he said that he chose the cinema number 9 because he wanted to block the exits with the handcuffs, but now the people are able to flee out of the exits.
a scope on it, but I didn't use it to sight. I just shot.
So for the timeline, it's tear gas, then he used the shotgun, and then the AR.
Randomly.
In the direction of people, but randomly would apply.
Randomly towards the people.
Towards, okay. At least some of the time you were trying to shoot specific people.
Right, so those 2 people who ran were the specific people. And then there was one other guy, which they carried out, who was a specific person I shot at.
How about the sound? What did all that sound like?
Well, I'd had my music in to drown out sounds. And I guess I didn't hear much.
How high was the music turned up?
To its full volume.
Full volume.
I'm basically in that corner the whole time, except for once I go into the light, which is later. Okay. The lighted hallway. I was checking the weapon, and I discharged the magazine that had misfired. I was trying to put a new one in, but they wouldn't go inside they wouldn't click in there.
So as you were, what was your purpose of walking up that alley?
To be able to see, because I couldn't see very well in the corner. And it was a safer spot to reload. Then I walked out. I think before I went into the aisleway, I shot some with the handgun, but I don't remember shooting the handgun.
Before you went into the aisleway? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you walk up the aisles at all and look down the aisles to see if there was anybody behind seats or anything like that?
No, I didn't walk up into the stands.
Words can probably not describe the hell the victims went through during James Holmes' merciless attack. People were shot in the head and body while trying to run to safety, others even bravely shielded their loved ones, sacrificing their own lives. Some of the bullets even went through the walls and nearly hit people in the neighboring theater rooms. It is a miracle that not more people died that day, and that even some people who were shot in the face ended up surviving this horrific day.
Your name?
I already gave my name.
Also, like that the people didn't trample themselves while fleeing it when they said there's 400 people in there, and they must have been full on panic mode.
I haven't talked to anybody who has your name. If you could just tell us what your name is.
It's James.
James, okay.
Holmes.
James what?
Holmes.
Holmes? How do you spell that, please?
And it looks like the interrogation right after he got caught. Now he still has that red hair.
Holmes?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to read this to you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay?
The sign said Victim Services Unit, Children's something.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, yeah. What about that?
There wasn't any children hurt, was it?
I don't know. We'll get to that.
He is choosing a cinema as a location, and then afterwards he says, I hope no kids got hurt. Is not a cinema like one of the places where you find kids like often?
First used his shotgun to shoot the large crowd of people, then he switched to his AR-15, which luckily jammed after 65 rounds had been fired. James then left through the emergency exit and was soon apprehended by officers,
And then he got captured. Okay.
who made it to the theater in under 2 minutes. Many victims were in critical condition, but the ambulances were blocked by police vehicles, parked cars, and the thousands of people fleeing the theater. However, police officers took the initiative and drove the injured people to 5 nearby hospitals, which saved multiple lives. James Holmes ended up being charged with hundreds of counts, including 2 counts of first-degree murder for every victim he shot dead and 2 counts of attempted murder for each of the 70 injured people who survived. He admitted to the killings but tried to plead not guilty by reason of insanity, which the prosecution obviously did not accept.
I would say if someone is pleading like for insanity, but they have this crazy mapped out plan on how they want to do it and all of that, I think, I don't know, then there's so much thought being put into it. It's not like something you do out of anger suddenly or whatever. It's all planned. I don't know if you should get that.
A trial ensued in April 2015, and after months of trials and testimonies, the jury found him sane and guilty of all counts. Now they only had to decide whether or not he should get the death penalty. However, they did not reach a unanimous decision.
But people voted against the death penalty for this horrendous crime. I don't know. Like, my point on that is, like, if it's unevitable, like if there's no doubt that a person committed it, so either like the person get seen like on camera by like so many people that it's almost impossible to say that it's like fake, and the chance that the court is doing a false ruling is like really, 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 really low, then I think the death penalty is fair.
Running all of the sentences consecutive and adding them all up, I believe the total comes out to 12 life sentences without the possibility of parole, consecutive to each other and consecutive to 3,312 years in the Department of Corrections. Yes, actually it's 3,318, excuse me.
What? Let's go back.
312 years in the Department of Corrections. Yes, actually it's 3,318, excuse me.
3,318 years.
Excuse me. I realize that I have imposed the maximum sentences, and somebody yesterday said, Judge, I want to make sure that whatever sentences you impose, that you are 100% sure that they are just and fair. And I am 100% sure that these are just and fair. I want to make it clear that it is the court's intention that the defendant never set foot in free society again. The intention of my sentences is that he spend every single day of the rest of his life in prison, and that he be imprisoned without the possibility of parole. If there was ever a case that warranted the maximum sentences, this is the case. One of the victims yesterday said the defendant does not deserve any sympathy. I wholeheartedly agree. The defendant does not deserve any sympathy, and for that reason, the court imposes the maximum sentences that the court can impose under the law. Sheriff, get the defendant out of my courtroom, please. Thank you.
Even after hearing the entire story of James Holmes, it is still not completely clear what the motive behind this massacre was, or if there even was a motive behind it whatsoever. The most likely explanation is a mixture of mental health issues combined with a failed path in life with no purpose left. One could try to think of every possible way this horrific crime could have been avoided, and we could start to blame everyone around James, like his psychiatrist.
I think when we're looking at those victims, totally random people that had nothing to do with him feeling bad, from what we know, I feel like it's the rejection. He got rejected. Everything that he wanted, like going to that university, his girlfriend, other people in life. The only thing he knew was rejection after rejection after rejection. And I'm pretty sure that fueled his hatred against the people. And his goal was just to just get the people rid of them, just so they cannot reject them anymore. So this is my final conclusion, that he couldn't handle the rejections anymore and wanted everyone to be gone. And I think the sentencing of 3,318 years is more than deserved. Yeah, that case was a tough one. Don't even really know what to say. But we will see each other on the next True Crime Tuesday. If you have any case that you want to be looked at, just leave it in the comments and we're going to put it on the list. Cheers guys, and see you next Tuesday.